Good morning. Today our lesson is talking about right triangles and trigonometric ratios. Now, we have to know that before we start, we have to know that the trigonometric ratios and the Pythagorean theorem only used for a right triangle. Right triangle, it's mean a triangle that has a right or a 90 degree. Okay, so the trigonometric ratios only for right triangle, not as an example for an acute triangle. Now, I will now introduce you to the trigonometric ratios. How can we find sine, cosine, tan, cosecant, secant, and cotan if we have a triangle with its measurements? Now, we have now this triangle. For this triangle with angle theta here, the opposite side of this angle theta is called it opposite. So this is an opposite side. And but the side that is nearest to theta, we called it adjacent. So this one, we called it adjacent side. But the longest side in the triangle, we called it hypotenuse. So because of that, we will name this side as the hypotenuse. So I will repeat. If you have this angle theta, for this angle theta, the opposite side is we called it opposite, the nearest one adjacent, and the longest side in the triangle, we called it hypotenuse. Now, how can we find sine theta? Sine theta, it is an opposite side, the yellow one here, over hypotenuse. So, sine, it is an opposite over hypotenuse. This is an opposite, and this is the hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. Il cosine, it is adjacent. For this one, I will use adjacent over hypotenuse. So, sine, it is an opposite over hypotenuse, and the cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Now, I told you in the first lesson that tan is sine of theta over cosine. Can we put opposite of the sine, which is, we know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and cosine also, it is opposite over hypotenuse. Sorry, adjacent over hypotenuse. Hypotenuse and hypotenuse cancel each other, so it will be opposite over adjacent. So the tan is opposite over adjacent, as you see. Now, what about cosecant? We know that cosecant is 1 over sine. So 1 over sine is the reciprocal of sine, so it will be hypotenuse over opposite, because the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so the cosecant is the reciprocal of it, which is hypotenuse over opposite. Secant, it is an opposite of cosine, so it will be hypotenuse over adjacent. And not opposite, sorry, a reciprocal. And cotan, it is an reciprocal of tan, so it will be opposite, adjacent over opposite. Now let's have an example. If you have this triangle ABC, and C is a right angle, which is AC is 8 unit, CB is 15, and AB, which is the longest one, is 17. Find sine A. Now, here, this is angle A. Sine, it is opposite over hypotenuse. What is the opposite of sine A? 15 over. What is the longest way, or which is the hypotenuse? is 17. So it is 15 over 17. Now you can write it as 15 over 17, and as a decimal it is 0.0882. Okay, now secant. What's the meaning of secant? Secant, it is 1 over cosine, which is mean it is hypotenuse over adjacent. This is what now, this is the secant. It is hypotenuse over adjacent for A. What is the hypotenuse of A? Which is 17. Oh, hypotenuse of the triangle is 17. What is it is adjacent for A? It is 8. So it is 17 over 8, or could write it as 2.125. What about cotan A now? Cotan A. Now, tan, it is opposite over adjacent. So cotan, it is adjacent over opposite. What is the adjacent for A? It is 8. What is the opposite of A? It is 15. 8 adjacent over opposite 15. So it is 8 over 15, which is 0.533. Okay. Now, cosecant B. What's the meaning of cosecant B? Cosecant is 1 over sine B. 1 over sine, it is mean hypotenuse over opposite. For angle B now, what is the hypotenuse? It is 17. What is the opposite of B? It is 8. So it is 17 over 8 or 2.125. What about secant B? Secant B is this meaning 1 over cosine B. Or it is hypotenuse, and it's the reciprocal of B, which is hypotenuse over adjacent. What is the hypotenuse? It is 17. What is the adjacent of B? It is 15. So 17 over 15 is 1.13. The last one, tan B. Tan, it is opposite over adjacent. What is the opposite of angle B? It is 8. What is the adjacent of angle B? It is 15. So it is 8 over 15, which is 0.533. Now, another example. In the triangle GHI, angle H is a right triangle. A right angle, sorry. So here we have H. And here we have G, so GH I. GH is 40. And cosine G is 40 over 41. So from here, cosine G is 40 over 41. Cosine, it is an adjacent over hypotenuse for angle G. What is an adjacent? It is 40, as I wrote. What about hypotenuse? It is 41. Okay, so I know now this is 40 and this is 41. Can I find HI? Yes, by using Pythagorean theorem, which we said that 41 squared is 40 squared plus HI squared. So 41 squared minus 40 squared minus 40 squared, it is 81. So 81, it is hi squared. So hi is 9. So this is now the angle, the measurements of each one. This is 41, this is 40, and this is 9. Now sine G. How can I find sine G? This is G. Sine, it is an opposite 9 over hypotenuse 41. Cosecant G. Cosecant, it is 1 over sine. What does it mean? The reciprocal of sine. 41 over 9. Sine I. Opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine I. It is adjacent 41. 9 over 41. Cotan G now. Cotan, it is opposite, adjacent over opposite. What is the adjacent of G? It is 40. What is the opposite of G? It's 9. The last one, secant H. Secant, it is 1 over cosine H. Or you can say it is 1 secant H. It is hypotenuse over, it is 1 over sine, 1 over cosine, so it is hypotenuse over adjacent. Okay, what is the hypotenuse of it is 41. What is the adjacent? It is hypotenuse over adjacent. 41 over, what is its adjacent? Here we have, it could be 9, it could be 40. It means there's something wrong. We know that secant, it is 1 over cosine of H. Is it right? And 1 over cosine, what is the H? It is right triangle. And I told you that the cosine of 90 is 0. So secant H, I will write beside it, it is undefined. Now for the sine, cosecant, sine, cosine, all of them are fractions. By calculator, you can find it as a decimal. Another example now. In the triangle ABC, if C is a right angle and tan A, which is 24 over 7, tan A for angle A, what is the opposite of A? Sorry, what is the tan? Tan, it is 24 over 7. Okay, what is the tan? It is opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 24 and its adjacent is 7. Can I find the length of AB? Yes, by using Pythagorean theorem, which is 24 squared plus 7 squared is AB squared. Now 24 squared is what? 576 plus 7 squared, so 625 is AB squared. Under square root, so AB, it will be 25. This is now what now? 25. Okay, back. I'm sorry. Now, sine A, opposite over hypotenuse, 24 over 25. Secant A, it is 1 over cosine. So it is hypotenuse over secant A, 1 over cosine, so hypotenuse over adjacent. What is the hypotenuse? Is 25. What is the adjacent of A? Is 7. So it's 25 over 7. Cotan A. Cotan A, it is 1 over tan A. And tan A is given. So it is the reciprocal of tan A. So it's 7 over 24. What about now cosecant B? Cosecant, it is 1 over sine B. What's it mean? It is an it is hypotenuse over sine. It's mean adjacent. It's mean opposite. So it is hypotenuse over opposite. What is the hypotenuse of here? It is 25. What is the opposite to B? It is 7. So it's 25 over 7. What about secant B? It is 1 over cosine. This means it is hypotenuse over adjacent. I'm sorry. So the hypotenuse here, it is 25 over the adjacent to B. This is B. What is the adjacent to it? It is 24. So 25 over 24. What about the last one? Tan B. Tan, it is an opposite over adjacent. What is the opposite to B? It is 7. What is the adjacent to B? It is 24. So the tan here to B is 7 over 24. Today now I have finished now the part 1 of our lesson. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will continue part 2, and on Thursday we will continue the part 3. Thank you for listening.